Yeah, well, you probably know this then, but the Libertarian Party in the US has kind of gone through a tumultuous time in its party leadership because there's something called the Mises Caucus, which has, I believe, taken control over the Libertarian Party at the national level. And the Mises Caucus is a lot more Trumpian in its perspective.
Have you ever taken a test that like positions you? I'd be curious to see like what your personal leanings for the like.
Yes,
what did you call it? What's his name again? Jonathan Hyman.
Jonathan Haidt, Moral Foundations Theory.
Heights.
Yeah. So you can actually take tests. I've taken them before. I think that I scored really highly in fairness, liberty, and then authority. And I think it was like in that order. So I cared most about fairness, then about liberty, then authority. That is kind of a unusual scoring, right? Like I think that conservatives, they score about equal on all of them. Liberals tend to score most on care harm, but they also care about fairness and liberty. And I think that libertarians care most about liberty over all else. And so I actually have a personality, or I guess like political impulse profile that is like a little bit different from most people, which is probably why I kind of don't find a lot of friends. Though I will say, for what it's worth, I do think that of any political persuasion, kind of like an old school or like classic libertarian is the closest to where I'm at.
And when you say that, you know, I know there's a lot of connotations around libertarians as just like closeted Republicans, essentially. Is that what you're referring to? Or are you referring to, like, I identify as a libertarian for a similar reason, I think. But I want you to explain, because not everybody will have the same context.
Yeah, well, you probably know this then, but the Libertarian Party in the US has kind of gone through a tumultuous time in its party leadership because there's something called the Mises Caucus, which has, I believe, taken control over the Libertarian Party at the national level. And the Mises Caucus is a lot more Trumpian in its perspective. It cares more about winning on these social issues. It's more willing to take a stance against abortion and against immigration in a way that more classical libertarians are not taking stances against, or at least are like kind of neutral on. And so that pivot over to like a much more Trumpian libertarianism, I think is something that like just doesn't resonate with me. But when I was like 13, my mother, she like went to a nearby college and she like picked out one of the philosophy students and was like, hey, I need you to like tutor my son in philosophy. And this like guy who's tutoring for like, you know, probably like minimum wage, he showed me this book called Anarchy, State, and Utopia by Nozick, and that informed a lot of my perspectives as like a 13-year-old and really kind of introduced me to libertarian philosophy. And so I think I've taken that seed of ideas and it's spread into so much more in my political perspective. But at the root, I think, is this kind of fundamental desire for fairness and liberty within society, for well-oiled systems that make sense and can be understood and results in these outcomes that are fair and free.
I like that. I like the way you describe things, by the way. Not to like, sorry, but I do like the way you describe things. Okay, now I'm just gonna ask you a bunch of questions that the Discord was asking.